Why the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be the first repeat NFC East division champion in over 2 decades. The 2025 Locked On NFL season previews continue right now.
This is the 2025 Locked On NFL season preview, only on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the 2025 Locked On NFL season previews. This episode, we are focused on the NFC East, sometimes referred to as the NFC least, but right now I think probably more so the NFC beasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets. Now, I am David Harrison, host of the Locked On Commanders podcast. I'll be your host for this divisional preview, and joining me are my brothers and sister from the Locked On Podcast Network, including Landon McCool of Locked On Cowboys, Patricia Traina of Locked On Giants, and Louis DiBiase of Locked On Eagles. Today, we're going to look at contenders, which teams present the biggest challenge in the division, most improved squads, and best players across all 4 teams, and we're going to give you our division finish predictions. Let's start with the ending there. The Philadelphia Eagles are the favorites to win the NFC East division this year. Rightfully so. They won the division last year. They won the Super Bowl. They do a lot of good things. But if there is a contender here, Louis, because all of us, every single one of us, as much as it pains us and our fan bases that listen to our shows faithfully to admit it, we all have to agree the Philadelphia Eagles are the favorites to win the NFC East. But Louis, if there's one of these teams that is threatening, that is scaring you as the host of Locked On Eagles to unseat the Philadelphia Eagles, which one is it?
I think it's the Washington Commanders, and I really like what the New York Giants are building, but for me, because the Eagles roster, I think is superior to the other 3 teams, it comes down to what team could have their quarterback carry them to a division title, and Jaden Daniels is coming off one of the best rookie seasons in the history of the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to ascend in year 2, as long as he's got Terry McLaurin in year 2. I think he's someone that could be an MVP candidate in 2025. So for me, like, if someone is going to upend the Eagles, and it doesn't have to do with the Eagles collapsing like in 2023 or injuries, I think it has to do with quarterback play. So I'm going to lean with the team that has the best quarterback outside of Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that is the Commanders. But I will say I kind of like what the Giants are building, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're more competitive in this division than we're giving them credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I think so as well. We'll get to that point as well, again, here in a little bit in this episode. But Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys, I think most general people watching this episode are going to be highly surprised that the Cowboys guy wasn't the one to jump up and say, no, the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this division. Because Cowboys fans think every year is their year. I actually saw a really recently funny video. I'll give this the short version. But the wife asked the husband, like, hey, if something hasn't happened in 30 years, would you bet on it to happen this year? And he's like, no, why would you do that? She's like, so why do you think every year is the Cowboys' year? Pretty funny stuff. Landon, why is it the Cowboys if it is the Cowboys, or do you think it is the Commanders like Louis thinks?
You have one good rookie quarterback, and you guys suddenly turn it around and think I'm the punchy bag, huh? Look, I first of all, I think that is people. If people actually know any Cowboys fans, that meme is absolutely hilariously ridiculous. Most Cowboys fans think that every year everyone's terrible. Everyone hates Dak. Everyone hates Jerry Jones. Just thinks it's terrible. I mean, like, honestly, like, the Cowboys fans are currently the most miserable bunch in all the land. So. I don't know that that's necessarily a truth. I think it's hard not to say Washington here just because of the success they had last year. We'll see how it all turns out. I think that they tried to execute a strategy that includes getting in on a rookie quarterback deal and trying to go all in. We'll see how well it worked. I mean, it feels like they got older for sure. So I think that the Cowboys are a team that, despite not being mentioned by Louis, they're still in this division. I think, ultimately at the end of the day, like you said, quarterback play is a big part of it. And I think the worst part about Dak's quarterback play last year was that, he had no hamstring. I think that now that he's back, they've improved the passing attack in both protection and with George Pickens. I think that suddenly this team is back in striking distance for the division. And like you said, it's been 2+ decades. There's been a lot of good Super Bowl playing teams in there that still weren't able to kind of repeat as NFC East championship. So I think the ball may bounce oddly this season like it has for a very long time.
Yeah, and look, the great thing you love about good divisional competition, right, is that there's a lot of things that kind of go out the window because I'm going to do my job as the host of this divisional preview. So, Commanders fans listening to this or watching this, please don't unsubscribe to my show. But
Yeah.
look, the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush played the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels for 1.5 games, and they beat them for 1.5 games with those two quarterbacks. And Baltimore Ravens fans are kind of getting a taste of what Cooper Rush is really all about right now. And it's not. So, wild things can certainly happen. So I don't think any team is necessarily out of this race until they're officially out of it. Speaking of that, Patricia Traina locked on Giants. The Giants are one of those teams not officially out of it, right? I think they've done a lot of good things this offseason. Where do you stack the Giants in this conversation of their odds of beating the Philadelphia Eagles to the NFC East Division crown? And if it's not them, who is it in your book?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Commanders. I mean, until proven otherwise. Now, that said, I think the Giants have made great strides in closing the gap. I'm not going to say that they're on equal ground with the Eagles until further notice. But, I will say this about the Commanders. They were certainly a surprise team last year. But, you look at the Giants and what they did last year against the Commanders. They only lost those two games by what? I think it was a combined less than 7 points, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they played the Commanders tough. And that gives me reason to believe that the Giants are going to be a lot more competitive in the NFC East. Now, will they overtake the Eagles? Probably not. Will they play them a little bit tougher to where they're not getting their doors blown off? That I could see. But, yeah, I think, as far as how the NFC East is going to fall, you go with the Eagles first. And until proven otherwise, you see what the Commanders do. You see the rest of the division, the rest of the league has finally caught up with the Commanders. Last year, everything was brand new. They were able to maybe capitalize a little bit on the surprise, but it's going to be a fun division to watch.
Yeah, I go back to the NFC Championship game, and until the third fumble lost by the Washington Commanders, that game was competitive, right? The Washington Commanders were certainly in the thick of that thing, and then everything kind of went sideways after that, or they kind of jumped the shark after that. Frankie Louvu specifically jumping over a lot of things in that game. But the two previous games, obviously the Washington Commanders won one of those games, thanks in large part to a Devontae Smith dropped fourth down conversion pass. But then the first game, even that Thursday night game, Lou, you'll remember the Commanders went into the fourth quarter with a lead against Philadelphia Eagles until Saquon Barkley decided to show his MVP game. So the Commanders spent a lot of energy and effort. I know the splash moves on the Commanders roster this year, Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, first-round offensive tackle, things like that. But they did spend a lot of resources bringing in guys to help bolster that run defense to prevent Saquon Barkley, not just Saquon, but specifically Saquon Barkley, from doing some of the things that he was able to do against them last year. And if those moves pan out, which so far through a joint practice and one preseason game and a couple of padded practices in training camp, looks like it certainly is better. We'll see. If the proof is in the pudding once the regular season starts, but certainly could have closed the gap. And Commanders fans are going to be unhappy with me for not going out there and speculating that the Commanders are going to unseat the Philadelphia Eagles. But until Jerry Jones trades Micah Parsons to Washington to reunite with his best buddy Dan Quinn, I can't go that far in the speculation season. And to Landon, to your point, I've seen plenty of Fire Jerry memes and tweets and all that stuff over the last few months, especially. So certainly Cowboys fans are not as arrogant as maybe we all like to think they are. But we are just getting started here. Coming up, the best players in the NFC East were all ranked in the Locked On 10 NFL Top 100. But there were some notable omissions, mistakes, or maybe standout players in the bunch. It's the 2025 Locked On NFL season preview of the NFC East. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason has already got us warmed up for NFL action. The college football season is right behind it. And today we're talking about the NFC East division, and Prize Picks makes it easier for you to get in the game, whether you got your eye on a big name quarterback or a breakout running back. They even have a max discount available for Dak Prescott during his season opener against the Philadelphia Eagles, setting his projection to just 0.5 passing yards. You can build your lineup around that. You can even add in the rival running back Saquon Barkley from the other side. Playing is simple. Just pick more or less on stat projections from 2 to 6 players, and the flex play option is a game changer. Even if one of your picks misses, you can still win. Ready to play? Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. The 2025 Locked On NFL season preview continues. A reminder, you can get daily coverage of your favorite NFL team by subscribing to their Locked On podcast. We also have the NFL covered nationally with Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Scouting, Peacock and Williamson, Locked On Fantasy Football, and Locked On Dynasty Football. And you can get 24/7 coverage of the NFL with our brand new Locked On NFL stream, free on YouTube and Amazon Fire TVs. So if you're ever sitting around and saying, man, I could really use some NFL conversation or coverage, you really don't have an excuse. Locked On has got you covered all the way down. So the Locked On NFL Top 100. We all got together, voted, put our ballots in, and came out with some interesting results, ladies and gentlemen. So 19 players from the NFC East division, nearly 20% of the Locked On NFL Top 100 coming from the NFC East, which is why at the beginning of this recording, I kind of referenced them as the NFC Beast. Clearly, guys, we're high on the NFC East at the Locked On Podcast Network. Micah Parsons leading the conversation, but it's hard to ignore the fact that four of the top 6, I should say, NFC East players came from the Philadelphia Eagles. But the top quarterback, to your point, Louis, is Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. So the most important player or the most important position is led by a Washington Commander. And then Patricia Traina getting in there too. Sexy Dexy is on the list. Brian Burns is on the list. Andrew Thomas, Malik Neighbors, all on the list. Guys, is there anywhere when you look at the NFC East players that made the NFL Top 100 that we messed up? Let's go with Patricia first.
You're going to get me started again, aren't you? The one problem I had with this list is Malik Neighbors being 92. I mean, come on. The kid, all things considered, I mean, I know he missed a couple of games, but he had, bad quarterback play, and he was still able to go over 1,000 yards. He was still able to get a Pro Bowl berth, albeit, as an alternate. How is he ranked at number 92? I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, I have no problem with the other rankings. Maybe Sexy Dexy should have been ranked a little bit higher, in my opinion, but Malik Neighbors at 92? Come on.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. When I look at Malik Neighbors and getting to watch him twice against the Commanders, getting to talk to Jaden Daniels about him just a little bit and kind of his mentality and who the young man is, I agree with you. I think he should definitely be higher than 92. I know it's a little bit hard to buy into rookie seasons and people kind of want to make you prove it for another year and all this other stuff. But I'm with you on that one, Patricia. I think Malik Neighbors certainly could have been higher. I think Dexter Lawrence, I actually like kind of where Dexter's ranked, but you know what? If he was higher, like he was like 25 instead of 33, I wouldn't have, shaken a stick at it by any means. Landon McCool, we got to talk to you here because obviously you and Marcus Mosier of Locked On Cowboys both put in your ballots and you both put Brandon Aubrey. I don't know, man. He must have been like top 5 on your ballots because he's number 76 here on the Locked On NFL Top 100 players. And I can tell you without a doubt that I did not put Brandon Aubrey on my ballot at all. So when he comes out in the wash, and I can't be the only one, when he comes out in the wash as the number 76 overall player, that means that some people put him on their list pretty high. Do you have a defense for Brandon Aubrey being on here? Because I feel like there's got to be one.
Well, there is. It's pure math because there's only 2 of us, and they couldn't have possibly put him in at number 76 with only 2 votes. So somebody outside of the 2 of us must have voted for him pretty high. I honestly don't even remember voting for him. So he clearly got enough votes from enough people that he got put not like at 93. Don't you think that if we had more pull in this list, we would have put Dak Prescott higher than 93 on this
put him
list?
At number 1. He probably put him right at up top, like top 3. That's how this happened.
Break. I mean, like if Brandon Aubrey's the 76th best player in the NFL, where do you think I would put Dak in this list? For goodness' sake. So no, I think Brandon Aubrey's got a lot of respect around the league, not just in Dallas. I disagree with including kickers on this list. So I can see everyone's argument. But if you're he's probably one of the best in the league and he's a weapon. So I get it.
Yeah, he's certainly one of them that you could consider for that. Yeah, I'm going to buy your story that you didn't vote for him, but I think someone needs to.
Maybe I did. I'm not going to be called a liar because someone's going to pull it out later and have a spreadsheet where I did vote for him, and that's fine. But I don't remember voting for him. But again, sheer volume, sheer math tells us there's no way that the 2 of us dragged him all the way up to 76.
And to put him above Malik Neighbors, come on.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
I mean, look, He's above Bobby Wagner. He's above Terry McLaurin, Andrew Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Dak Prescott. And yeah,
I thought that was just
wild.
Wagner's age. That's his ranking in the 77 is his ranking.
You know
what?
I would get offended
crazy.
because I'm older than Bobby, but we're talking football age here, not real life age. Someone needs to put this on a T-shirt somewhere. The graphic of Brandon Aubrey's ranking being above Dak Prescott's, and send that to the Dallas Cowboys locker room and see what happens, because that is pretty wicked. That's pretty wicked business. Louis DiBiase, the Eagles have, I mean, if we count it up, it's like 6 or 7 players on the NFL top 100 here. By far one of the teams, or one of the most stacked teams in the NFL top 100. Is there a mistake here? Is there a mistake anywhere in the list for Philadelphia Eagles? Is there a player that should have been there? Are you upset that Jalen Hurts is ranked below Jaden Daniels, all of the above, any of it?
Yeah, I think Devontae Smith should have been in the top 100, in my opinion. I do think Jalen Hurts should be much higher than number 46, and I'm pretty realistic with Jalen Hurts. Like, I think he's a top 10 quarterback with top 5 moments. I would not put him ahead of, the top 4 are Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. But for him to outplay Patrick Mahomes in 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls, for him to always be a top 5 player when it matters most in NFC championships and in Super Bowls, like, he's the reason they won that Super Bowl. They stopped Saquon Barkley in Super Bowl 59. To put him at number 46, I just think is a little disrespectful, and I think it's because people have a preconceived notion or a predetermined, view of what a franchise quarterback is supposed to be and what elite traits they're supposed to have. And I don't think Jalen Hurts is an elite player in the same way as a Joe Burrow or a Lamar Jackson even, or a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. But eventually, like, production and on-field results have to matter a little bit more in these conversations, because guys like Justin Herbert are ranked ahead of him, and that guy has a 50% completion percentage in the playoffs. So I think a lot of it, too, is Jalen Hurts is not given enough credit because of his support system. But Justin Herbert gets pretty much, like, no blame because of the support system. So which quarterbacks are we allowed to evaluate, and which ones are we not? So, yeah, I'm not saying he should be number 1 or number 2 in this list, but number 46, I don't know. I think that's a little crazy, and I think people made up their minds about who Jalen Hurts was in 2021, and I don't think they've really budged it since.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, the Jalen Hurts conversation, because, and actually, Patricia, this might be good news for your New York Giants, because Dak Prescott's kind of in the same boat, where coming into these conversations about them arriving to their current teams, I was a little bit higher on the quarterback than most of the outside world was. But then it kind of got to a point where I was like, hold up, you're getting a little too high here. And I got to say, Jalen Hurts, I think that he could certainly be ranked higher than he is on our NFL top 100. But I'm kind of with you, Louis. At least you're there where he's not, maybe he's a top 10 quarterback with top 5 moments. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback, but I do think that you have a point there. The biggest thing that hindered me from putting Jalen Hurts higher up on my ballot than I had him is a little bit of the supporting cast, like you mentioned, but it's also the fact that about week 4 or 5, Kellen Moore last year really switched his approach from saying Jalen Hurts is going to lead this team to Saquon Barkley is going to lead this team. And it got to a point watching the Philadelphia Eagles where I said, you know what, man, if they lose Saquon, which knock on wood, that doesn't happen ever again, I think the Philadelphia Eagles might be, toast for not saying they're not going to be a good team just at all, but not going to be a championship contender like they obviously were and then became champions.
I mean, in 2022, they didn't have Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts led them to the Super Bowl. So.
No, but at the same time, Louis, you kind of said it. Like in the Super Bowl, when he had to prove it, Jalen Hurts had to prove it, it's because the team chose to stop Saquon Barkley. Like that, and I think that says something about what the defense are doing. They chose to stop Saquon Barkley, and they made Jalen Hurts prove it. Now, to his credit,
and they paid
he did
for
prove it.
He did.
He did.
Yeah, to his credit, he did it.
But they made the choice that they felt like that was the less likely of the two performers, and he performed. So I think that, if anything, proves where he is in the pantheon of this whole situation.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit to all of this, right? Like he can certainly be underrated, but he can also certainly be overrated in the minds of some.
How he performs in his role, is an important thing.
Yeah.
And I think he does that better than almost anyone in the NFL, to be fair to him.
Absolutely deserved the Super Bowl MVP trophy, you know what I mean, or award. But let's all send some strays to Justin Herbert, though. That's a quarterback that I've not really understood all the hype about him since the year that he was supposed to be the MVP of the league.
That makes me more upset than the
Jaden.
Yeah, that makes me more upset than the Jaden Daniels ranking. I just think Justin Herbert, he's kind of like the BCS of quarterbacks, where the results don't even matter. Just send in the tape or what's supposed to be the best, but he's not the best. They just want him to be the best, and he
just ask yourself this question when it comes to quarterbacks: can the team win because of them, without them, with them. How important is the team or the quarterback, I should say, to the team's success?
Yeah.
Can the Eagles win without Jalen Hurts? I don't know. Louis, what do you think?
I think when Kenny Pickett was in last year, it showed they couldn't. So that
Yeah,
would
I
be
think
my
the Eagles would be hindered much more without Jalen Hurts than the Chargers would without Justin Herbert. And that might be a little bit of a hot take, but and I mean, not for nothing, the Chargers go out there and hire a run-first head coach who hires a run-first offensive coordinator who literally didn't last in Baltimore because the coach Harbaugh in Baltimore said, we want our quarterback to be unleashed. And then he goes and joins the Harbaugh on the West Coast who leashes quarterbacks. So, this isn't the AFC West season preview, though. This is the NFC East season preview. If I'm looking at this list from Washington Commanders' perspective, guys, I think the only snub, if there is one, that I could possibly point out would be linebacker Frankie Louvu, who I think should have probably made this list. I know I put him on my top 100, but again, if he goes out there and does this year what he did last year, outside of 5 back-to-back offsides penalties, I think he'll get a little bit more respect from the network in general in the 2026 version of the Locked On NFL Top 100. So we've gone through some of the best talent in the NFC East, but one of these teams is the most improved talent-wise this offseason. We'll dive into that next on the 2025 Locked On NFL season preview of the NFC East division. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. This NFC East division preview is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Think about that for our NFC East preview. You could use those bonus bets to wager on who you think wins the division, or you could build a same-game parlay for that first Commanders-Giants matchup. Will Jaden Daniels throw for multiple touchdowns? Will the Giants pass rush get home? You can bet on it all. I love using FanDuel because it makes every single game more exciting. Same-game parlays are my jam. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sunday, Monday, Thursday, sometimes Saturday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bets. The 2025 Locked On NFL season preview continues, and another reminder, you can get daily coverage of your favorite NFL team by subscribing to their Locked On podcast. We also have the NFL covered nationally with Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Scouting, Peacock and Williamson, Locked On Fantasy Football, and Locked On Dynasty Football. And you can get 24/7 coverage of the NFL with our brand new Locked On NFL stream, free on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TVs. To me, NFC East brethren and sister, and I don't know what the alternate version of that is for women. I think the New York Giants are the most improved team in this division this year, and I'm going to point to one position only, although I do think Abdul Carter is going to be a monster and makes an already tough defense even better. But Patricia, to me, it's Russell Wilson. It's the most important position on the field. And no, I'm not going to sit here and say Russell Wilson's going to be like an MVP candidate or anything like this. And maybe this is a little bit more of a shot at Daniel Jones than he deserves, but it really is just it's not much of a bar to cross. But I think Russell Wilson is a much better quarterback than Daniel Jones was. And I don't even necessarily hate the pick of Jackson Dart as a potential future quarterback for the New York Giants.
Yeah, it's amazing watching them in practice, watching them in the preseason. I'm like, wow, this is what competent quarterback play looks like. It has been so long since we have seen it with the New York Giants. No disrespect to the guys that they had in the past, but, Russell Wilson head and shoulders above what they have had. And Russell, he's not the same guy he was in Seattle when he was, in his prime, when he was winning Super Bowl, the Super Bowl for them. But this is a guy who's meticulous. This is a guy who has seen everything, done it all. He's able to direct. He's able to coach, be a coach on the field. He's able to throw that moon ball. I mean, one of the things that the Giants lacked, the offense lacked last year, they had all these speedsters, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, and you look at their average yards per target, and it was down like towards the bottom of the receivers in the league. They finally have a quarterback now who can put that ball up there, who can get those large, chunk plays that were missing, who can keep the drives alive. And it's just, to see this, it's like, wow, where has this been, And you mentioned the rest of the quarterbacks. Jackson Dart is looking very promising. Now I know a lot of people say, oh, he should start over Russell Wilson. No, he's not going to start over Russell Wilson just yet. It's going to come maybe later in the year. It's not going to come week 1. Sorry to disappoint you, David. But Jackson Dart, a lot of promise with that young man. He's just improved by leaps and bounds. And let's not forget Jameis Winston. You know, a lot of people say, oh, Jameis, you know, you never know what you're going to get with him. He can sling the rock too, you know, and he's looked very good in camp as well. He probably throws the prettiest deep ball out of the quarterbacks they have. And Tommy DeVito, you know, I don't think he makes this Giants team, which is a shame, you know, hometown hero and everything like that. But they're going to go with the 3, and Russell Wilson by far the biggest improvement on the offensive side. And the only improvement, if you think about it, the Giants basically kept the same offensive line, the same running backs, same tight ends, same everything except for quarterback. So absolutely.
Yeah, look, you know, I will never forget about Jameis Winston. I had the privilege, and I don't say that mockingly. I mean it when I say I had the privilege of covering Jameis Winston for the first 5 years of his NFL career. Now, I didn't always have the privilege of covering every throw that he made, but covering Jameis Winston is amazing. So I hope you're really enjoying that.
I love him.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people in the league, hands down. When the Browns visited the Commanders last year, I actually tried to get my job done quickly in the Commanders locker room so I could make it to the Browns locker room and say hi to him before he got on the bus. But unfortunately, I was too late. But anyway, maybe in New Jersey. So Russell Wilson, New York Giants. Look, Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors is the perfect Russell Wilson wide receiver, at least for this stage in his career, because Russell Wilson pretty much only knows how to. Well, I say he only knows that. That sounds disrespectful, but his best ball is the perimeter. Right, his best ball is to the perimeter. Malik Neighbors and Jane Daniels literally made their money their final year at LSU together, throwing slot fades to the perimeter. So I think that it's going to be a very good fit there in New York. But Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys. Who's the most improved team in this division from where you're sitting?
I think saying the Giants is totally fair. I mean, I think, you know, where they came from to where they are this year. I don't know about the quarterback situation. I mean, I think, look, it certainly is an improvement on where it was last year. But I look at all 3 of those guys and I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. Dart's a guy for the future. I have hopes for him in the future. I think he's a developmental guy down the road. But I look at Russell Wilson at where he is at this stage of his career. Winston, I think both of those are guys that I would feel solid about as backups, but I think they have limited shelf life. But I do think the Giants, like on the defensive side, are building a monster. And that defensive line specifically, just the addition of Abdul Carter, besides the talent that he adds, the slotting of how it kind of puts everybody into place a little bit. I think that's really what excites you if you're a Giants fan. Is now you're talking about depth at the pass rusher position. You talk about Brian Burns coming off the edge with Abdul Carter. They added Chauncey Golson, who is a guy who played for the Cowboys, who is a really good kind of inside outside guy. I think this defense, obviously Dexter Lawrence, we talked about earlier, is one of the better players in all the league. Probably the best nose tackle, definitely the best pass rushing nose tackle in all of football. So yep. I think that the defensive line specifically continues to get better every year, and they added some more competent pieces because honestly the back end has been so terrible for the Giants for years. They added some competent pieces and guys like Paulson Adebo. Now they had to pay a lot of money for him, but I mean, he's another guy who can go out there and play, give you competent play. He's not going to get destroyed every single snap. And then they added a guy who I think is sneaky good in Javon Holland with Miami, who's a solid player, kind of underrated his whole career. But even by me, I didn't expect him to be the player he was coming out of college, and he proved me wrong. And I think the Giants getting better incrementally every year on defense, that's the thing that kind of keeps me up at night, for a team that, normally for the NFC East has been kind of an afterthought. You can see this team start to kind of claw their way back to relevancy, specifically defense first, it feels like.
Yeah. Louis of Locked On Eagles. I don't want to ask you who the most improved team is because I think we're kind of all on the same page, but I do want to ask you this. On Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins on Wednesday afternoons, I've been harping pretty hard on the Philadelphia Eagles, losses on their defensive side of the ball as far as personnel. I think there's some significant losses there, and the loss of Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator is potential impact move. And I've said that several times. I think the Commanders, the Cowboys, and even the Giants, even if it's not all the way, have kind of caught up a little bit. And then the Eagles may have regressed a little bit because of those specific losses. How significant do you think those losses might be in 2025?
Yeah, I think the 2024 Eagles had one of the most perfect rosters in the history of the NFL. So I think just by comparatively speaking, like they were going to regress. They did lose a lot of starters on defense. Darius Slay, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, CJ Gardner-Johnson. But when you still look at their roster top to bottom, I still think it's the best put together team in the NFL. And a lot of the guys that are replacing those starters, while I think the floors are lower for like a Jalix Hunt or a Moro Ijoma or a Keely Ringo or a Drew Makuba, I think the ceilings, though, are actually higher. So I think the variance is a little bit wider this year for the Eagles. But I think that's just also par for the course when you're a team that's investing so much capital in an offense with stars that pretty much, I mean, every starter has a top 10 contract, top 5 contract, it feels like. So naturally, you got to go younger. I think how he's learning from his mistakes of the first Super Bowl win, they just kind of doubled down on all those aging players and they got expensive and old fast. So on paper right now, they look a little worse off, but I think it's going to help them for the long term.
Yeah, man, paying their offense, drafting their defense. The Bengals try to copy it, and they're not doing it very well. But again, more on them on another episode. So based on everything we've discussed today, obviously a highly competitive division is what we expect. We expect even the Giants, who I think are probably going to finish pretty low on a lot of these rankings, to be very competitive, even though we do feel like they're probably in the bottom here. Guys, 1 through 4 to wrap up this episode. I'll start us off. I've got the Eagles number 1 until they're not number 1. I've got the Commanders number 2. I am going to go Cowboys number 3, and then Giants number 4. Louis, Locked On Eagles, the reigning division champs. We'll let you go first here. Who's your 1 through 4 in the NFC East division?
Yeah, I only have one difference for me. I have the Eagles and the Commanders up top. I do have the Giants finishing 3rd, and I have the Dallas Cowboys at 4th.
Landon McCool. No analysis. We've already done all the analysis. Just 1 through 4. Who you got?
Now, if you can still remember, we are the Dallas Cowboys and we are in the NFC East. Yes, I actually picked us to be second. I think that the Washington's going to take a step back. Daniels will have a sophomore slump. I'm really uncomfortable with some of the stuff that Washington did. I just don't know that it helped with some of the issues they have getting older on defense. And the next Dan Quinn defense that stops the run will be the first Dan Quinn defense that stops the run. So I think that that's going to continue to be an issue for them and for the Cowboys years later, even after he's left.
All right, so Landon McCool is going Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. Patricia Traina, what do you got?
Well, first off, I want to know, Landon, what are the Dallas Cowboys doing? I mean, they're playing games again with Micah Parsons. I mean, how could you put them, ahead of the Giants? Come on.
They're playing games with CD Lamb last year too, and they're playing games with Zach Martin the year before. And,
it's like, why? Why do they do this? But I got to go Eagles. I'm going to say Commanders. I'm going to go Giants, and I'm going to go Cowboys. I don't know what the Cowboys are trying to do, what they're doing. And I do think eventually the Giants are going to be able to overtake Washington. I don't think there's going to be a split. I'm sorry. I don't think there's going to be a sweep this year. I could see a split, but the Eagles still scare me, if I'm being honest.
Yep. So we got a split. We got a split decision here on the card in the preview. So we'll see how it all wraps up. I'll be honest with you though, guys. I'm actually very close to putting the Giants above the Cowboys as well. So sorry for that. Landon McCool, Locked On Cowboys. Patricia Traina, Locked On Giants. Louis DiBiase, Locked On Eagles. I am David Harrison of Locked On Commanders, and we all thank you for listening to this 2025 Locked On NFL season preview of the NFC East division. If you want to hear how the other divisions will play out this year, subscribe to Locked On NFL wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.